I didn't look at it yet. Is there a place in the book that gives you like the pluses for weapons?
Yeah, well, pluses for weapons are basically damage pluses.
Yeah. Because I realized that because of my Haven, I actually should have one more weapon.
Ah, I see. I see. I mean, yeah. So basically, like in terms of like damage output, you mean? Yeah. So what kind of weapon were you thinking about? Shotgun.
Because I get one long firearm and one hand, what do you call it? Secondary firearm as well, which is the pistol that I have, the Glock 22. And then I was thinking the long one I also have because it's part of the hidden armory.
Long barrel weapon. Yeah.
Yeah.
That would basically be a +4 for damage.
Okay.
If it was like a weapon meant to be a hunting shotgun or home defense, I believe.
Yeah, I feel like the way that he is, it's probably just like a double barrel.
Yeah, that could totally work too. Yeah. Yeah, like your guns, any one of your pistols basically does a +3 to damage.
Yes, I had that already written down.
Where's the game?
That's why I was like...
Roman?
Oh, there is no red. Sorry, I was talking to myself and I said it out loud. I wasn't actually talking. Sorry, I interrupted.
Okay, perfect.
It wasn't.
No, you said it out loud.
Yeah.
We all heard it.
I didn't think I did until it came out and I went.
We heard it. It's okay.
I was like.
Yeah, we're not gonna say anything.
Okay.
Totally gonna say something.
Who said what?
Yeah, about all of it.
Words?
Yeah. I was gonna say thank you guys also for listening to me dump out all that heavy stuff at because like that it's I think very
grinds your gears.
I tell you, it's the hardest thing in the world to be someone who like went in. It's the hardest thing being a white guy. No, so I struggle very much with. I think my hardest thing that I've ever like had. The first two things are this. Number one is like how to be in that place of like I'm dating now or wanting to be dating people and I want to be able to meet people and also being like, but also remember, be a good, decent man. That's always the one thing. Mm-hmm. But the other one is very much that I grew up in a place of like football community and like.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
I thought you were on the football team.
Right? Yeah, it's not the energy I give off. Very much like trying to like be pragmatic, give solutions, very simple solutions. Very simple. Like if you're not doing your job in the football field, you are costing the team. And if you need to be able to do the job, you got to do the job. And if you're not doing it, you're not helping. But like
get the fuck off the field.
The nuances though of like trying to navigate, also trying to talk to people about problems or any kind of issues that are especially like mental or any of that kind of stuff where the problem is not a task, the problem is just becomes a very difficult kind of thing to navigate because it's just you get into very complicated terminology and things I don't understand with it. So it's kind of like it's always hard to process that and to very like try to come from a place of like general understanding in that as well. That's always a hard thing. So yeah, I appreciate you guys listening to that as I figure it out.
Yeah, it is very funny to think that at this TTRPG table are two former high school football players.
Yeah.
You also played football?
Yeah.
And so did I!
No, I didn't. No, I did not.
Was it because the guys...
Was the ball?
Was it... The ball? You're on the team!
I bet your form was impeccable.
Yes.
Your form was impeccable. Yeah.
Like,
shot
like
put.
Riz, Riz from Dimension 20.
Perfect.
Yes.
Ball!
It's perfect. I would say if you were playing in my last year, we did have women on the team, and we would have absolutely fucking trounced the guys who were beefing off on women, and I'm just like, okay, shut the fuck up. Like, yeah, straight up. So you would be welcome.
Nice.
But yeah.
Yeah. No, I started football and then went to musical theater.
How many years did you play?
Just the one because I have a fucked up knee. And going through that, and I was like, oh, there's a lot of running, so I went to wrestling instead.
Yeah, that's right.
And then I went, this is better, but there's a lot of lifting people. And then I went musical theater. And I was like, this is dancing. I can do this.
Yeah. I 9 years, and my dad was my coach every one of those years.
Wait, you were football Troy Bolton?
I was football Troy Bolton. Yeah, I actually was. Except I kept watching it, and I was like that movie. Like, I'm not gonna lie, his dad is a little homophobic.
Oh, his dad is like is both like the funniest and worst character of that movie.
Yeah.
because the fact that he's like literally the entire time, it's all that's on his mind is just football. I mean, just basketball.
Yeah.
Only basketball. Nothing else. There's literally like a point in the
You're
movie
you're a ball player. You're not a singer.
Yeah,
you think maybe it could be both with his hairy ass
Yeah,
armpits?
I watched this YouTuber Danny Gonzalez. Like he basically watched through all 3 of the High School Musical movies for the first time, and there was a moment where they're like in. I think it's like in the like garage, and they're like fixing cars. He's like, oh, the first time they're not using basketball really. And then he looked, there's basketballs in the background in the garage. And he's like, I wouldn't be surprised if there's a basketball. There's not even a motor in there. It's just a basketball that he's touching.
Yep.
He doesn't even have a mom. It's just a series of basketballs in a trench coat.
You fucked a bet. What? That's so hilarious.
Good old High School Musical.
Loud cats.
Watched it for the first time when I think I was like 16.
Get your head in the game. Got to get your head in the game.
What was it? It was what year did the first movie come out?
Oh, I think that was like
2004 or 5, something like that. Because 2008, I think, was the second one,
yeah.
and 2010 or 2011 was the 3.
I think it's a little bit later because I think 2011
I'm the one with the phone now.
Was the summer. This is why I'm glad Monica has her phone, and also why I'm scared that
yeah,
Monica has her phone.
I think that it's 2011 was when the third one came out in theaters because it was a huge thing.
Yeah, it was.
So
it
the
was
first
huge.
one came out in 2006. I'm so not.
Yeah.
2006. Okay.
And then I think the second one was 2007 or 2008.
Yeah,
It was 2000.
And
2007.
then the next one was
Good
it
year for
2010
movies.
Or 2009.
Yeah, it was.
2008. It was
2008. Oh, so it was literally
6,
like year.
7, 8.
So wait a minute. High School Musical came out like in the peak movie era of like 2006, meh. But 2007, that was No Country for Old Men. That was There Will Be Blood. So like Zac Efron was competing against like what is it? Javier Bardem and
I'm just gonna say this: which of those 3 movies had a sequel?
and I will say
or a sequel.
exactly. And I was gonna also say the movie that movie was competing with for High School Musical 3. That was a good year to go to the theaters because that's when The Dark Knight came out. So 2008 was The Dark Knight.
Remember? Yeah, and it was a dark day on The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
Came out.
Yeah, fuck.
Yeah.
Dark Knight is my movie of like I like to prefer that this movie doesn't exist. It's a core piece of my identity how much I hate The Dark Knight.
Really, you
Yep.
do?
Yeah.
What?
I really like The Dark Knight.
See,
What?
I'll say this for me personally before Liam, because I know Liam might go off.
Oh, I
Before Liam goes
will.
off, I thought it was a good movie. I think as a comic fan, I didn't like it as a comic book movie. I will also say, I think, for me personally, I would have been happier if it didn't exist because it means Heath Ledger would still be alive.
True.
That is the one thing because the fact that it was the journals that he kept as the Joker was what people looked and saw was the downfall of his mental health. That's the only thing that I think. And also, the sequel was bad. I think they did a bad job with Dark Knight Rises.
Yep.
I'm still mad. I think it's hilarious, the Bane voice. I will do the Bane voice forever. I love the Harley
Gosh.
Quinn. If you've seen the Harley Quinn cartoon, the fact that they mix the classic Bane look but with that voice is fucking hilarious.
Crashing
He's
this
like,
plane.
he's there with the Penguin's neck. He's like, Jeremy, you have a credit card for emergencies only. These are not emergencies.
What is this?
It's the Harley Quinn cartoon.
Oh,
And it's literally Bane is like the accountant of the League of Supervillains.
Oh my god.
Because
that's
the whole
very
thing is
funny.
that Bane is an actually smart guy. And he's literally like looking, and Penguin's nephew Jeremy's there. He's like, Jeremy, this is supposed to only be for emergencies.
That's hilarious.
This trip was not an emergency. He's like, no, it was Bane. He's like, no, Jeremy, this is bullshit. And like throws it. He's like, I'm sorry, Jeremy.
I love how this is coming out like right before the session and I'm recording and I'm just like, this is fucking awesome to talk about. So straight up, but that's okay. Interesting to know that. And for yourself, if you don't mind me asking, Sammy, let me ask you something here.
Why do you hate fun?
No. Why do you hate fun? I'm sorry. When I watch The Dark Knight, I was supposed to say, as much as I do love The Dark, and I do love that movie, I will say, it's not. It's not.
There's no session today. It is actually our newest podcast, guys.
Welcome to Novice DMing. Let's talk about The Dark Knight.
It's gonna be like yegVMP session to actually Dark Knight.
But it's like, let's talk about the Dark
5
Knight. But
minutes
first,
of
let's talk about my
actual gameplay.
supplements. Let's talk about my supplements. Sammy, you got some electrolytes right there. You want to talk about BioSteel?
Let's talk about my daddy, BioSteel.
How many mushrooms are in that shit?
20 grams? 60?
20 mushrooms inside of one BioSteel?
Grams.
How much can you put in a handful?
It's actually not electrolyte. It's just
Like
raw
Skittles.
mushrooms inside of a bottle.
Raw mushrooms.
It's
actually-
reishi.
It's like a spinach smoothie where you just like put it in, so it's just like a green slurry.
It's
but
lime, cherry, and spinach?
yeah, and it's got mushrooms in it too.
Lion's
Just-
mane.
Yeah,
Yeah.
lion's mane. Yeah,
Oh my
See,
god.
the lime actually helps break it down.
yeah, citrusy.
Oh.
Acid.
See, this is so good to talk about. I literally, for anxiety purposes, need to remind myself that the audio is recording. I'm gonna be right back.
So I was watching not criminal. I was watching like true crime yesterday, and like I was rewatching them because there's not really any good serial killer ones because they've already kind of covered all the serial killers, like the good. And it's bad to say, but all the good serial killers, like the interesting ones. If you're a serial killer out there and
We are
your name
recording.
is not known and it's been known for a while, but nobody really actually knows it, you kind of did a shit job.
Yeah,
For
Ted
what?
Cruz.
For what?
Who?
For
oh,
what?
sorry.
What?
But anyways.
What serial killing? What?
Ted Cruz.
Yeah, Ted Cruz.
Zodiac
Ted Cruz.
killer.
You remember that meme
Forgot.
from like 2012?
I thought his dad killed him. I thought it was Ted Cruz's
Is
dad.
that Ted Cruz is a time traveler.
Oh,
Yeah.
I thought it was his dad that did it.
No.
My mistake.
But
My
also,
mistake.
when it came out that they actually know who Jack the Ripper is now, it's pretty dope.
What was his name?
I can't remember. It was
Jack.
a really stupid
It
fucking
was a
name.
crazy coincidence.
It's a stupid ass name.
Jack Johnson.
Hold on.
Benedict Cumberbatch, actually.
What? No.
For identity.
What?
He was British.
He was in the Imitation Game. The perfect imitation.
So it's not like 100%, but they found the fiber on the scene or whatever of like this like wool coat or whatever.
Oh,
Of
that's
like
cool.
one or like many scenes, I can't remember. But anyways, they took the DNA and extracted to that, and then found out somehow they tracked down
23andMe.
yeah, not really, but like back then.
It was Ancestry.ca.
Yeah, essentially found out who his like great niece or something was or whatever, or daughter. Anyways, it's been so long since I read this. Actually, it's been like a month.
Yeah,
But
that's
anyways.
I get what you were saying, but it sounds somebody like it was like his great niece or daughter. It was like one of the two, either.
His granddaughter, I meant.
I know, but it was just so funny. Like it was one of these or his daughter.
His daughter. Who knows?
He had his child very late in life.
I do. Oh,
Anyways,
sorry.
and so they found out it was like a match, but they're pretty fucking certain it's this dude, and it's
Interesting.
Aaron Kosminski, and he has
Interesting.
and he has a stupid ass face.
Okay. Okay. Well, hey, if I may,
Yeah,
he has an
yeah.
he has an incel
He's
face.
a stupid ass face.
He has an incel face, which makes sense why he killed 5
So
prostitutes.
apparently
Yeah.
he had a whole bunch of mental health issues.
Who didn't back then?
Yeah, I mean,
They
that
just
tracks.
brushed them all away.
He does
And put them
look
in an
like
asylum,
someone I
and
would
then-
trust if I were a prostitute, though.
There's a lot of people I wouldn't trust if I was a prostitute.
Yeah. I mean, he looks weak
Number
and
one,
unassuming.
He looks like hi,
My
and you're like,
employer.
I was gonna say Ted Cruz.
Right?
Ted Cruz, yeah.
He's a time traveler.
He looks soft.
how
all
much,
those people
how much
in
for the
the
booty?
U.S. government
Excuse
group
me,
chat
madam.
that got
Tips
leaked
for
because they
Dora.
accidentally added a
How
journalist
much
to it.
for? Thy booty.
Did you hear about that?
What?
Yeah. Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, and a bunch of high government officials had a group chat where they were discussing military plans, and they accidentally added a journalist. And the journalist just sat there and like saw, and so he leaked a bunch of stuff because he was like, "All right," and then left, and they're like, "Wait, this person was in there." So
You're
yeah,
idiots.
That guy's just
They
home,
are
just like,
idiots.
thank you.
yes. I wish he would have said that was before he left the group. He'd been like, "Thanks."
Thanks.
Thanks, bye.
That'd be perfect.
Bye.
Oh
But,
my
like, with a
God.
Y. Bye.
With
This
the,
is-
like,
Bye.
kawaii emojis where it's like the bunny where and it's like jumping and it's got the little like sparkles and stars. Yeah. One of those. Okay, thanks, bye.
This is the best white people podcast I've ever had in my entire life. Fuck
this
yes.
Is the whitest.
Oh my god, guys.
We love it.
Should we do it? Should we be naughty? Should
we pull the trigger? I was straight up talking. Well, I was straight up talking with my roommate about that because like there was a moment where like I have genuinely thought about like, do I want to do some advice stuff and bring on guests with stuff like that to have like little videos? And I would literally was like, but we could also just have a moment when Liam understands like slang because I don't get all slang. Like I actually learned like what is it, the proper uses of serving, and then eating as well. You know, because
when you go to a restaurant.
See, and that's what my straight answer was. But then I realized, because I am serving, and I do it, and it was actually the moment when someone tells me, oh, there's this thing called eating when it comes to slang. And I was like, and he was like, what? And I was like, well, serving seems like it's more work. And I can say that as a server. But when you're eating, kind of is like a leisure thing.
It's passive.
It's passive. Anyone can do it. But serving, that's an art. So when someone's serving...
Your name's Joey Chestnut. And you're eating is a fucking job. That man's ate like 100 hot dogs in 10 minutes.
Yeah,
Joey Chestnut. He's one of those.
God, it's a good thing I have my phone back now because now I'm like, what?
He's one of the most prolific professional eaters.
Joey Chestnut.
I love that you know that.
I know it too, and I think I know this.
He looks like a happy fucking dude.
Yeah, because he eats so many hot dogs.
Hey. That's a man I could trust.
But also,
that's a man I could trust.
Never murdered a single person.
Never murdered
83 hot
He's just
dogs
murdered
in
the
10 minutes?
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I was only up by a bit.
83?
Yeah.
That's active eating.
No, my partner Boz and I watched two competitive eaters on YouTube.
Yeah.
One named Katina Eats Kilos, and she's like this like really buff like lady who her and her partner go around and do like challenges. And there's another one named Beard Meets Food, and he's this like super like massive beard British dude, but he's like this. He looks like the skinniest dude ever. And he just goes and just destroys like eating competitions. Like places will have like eat this in this time and you get it for free, and he just goes and they're like standing there like watching as he's just devouring it. But yeah, so because of that, I know of Joey Chestnut and Kobayashi, who is, I don't remember if he's beaten Joey Chestnut a bunch, but yeah, he's also crazy.
Have you seen that?
So when they're eating, that's a lot.
But right? But there's like this girl on TikTok she's an Asian girl, and she's so tiny, and I'm talking about like tiny, and she can she eats like stacks of plates up to like she'll stack her plates like this high, like and she does. I don't know. I have to like I'll put it in the group chat later.
Please do.
Yeah, because I'm like I haven't seen her in a hot minute, but it gets to the point where you're like, where the fuck does it go? Because it's one thing to be an average man,
in the mouth,
even skinny man, but to be literally someone who's like probably like,
tiny body frame,
about, like,
exactly.
5'2", skinnier than skinny, and she's just.
Yeah, even when Baj and I watched the one.
Got a furnace inside of your stomach.
She is like only like 5'2" or 5'3", but like for her, we're still impressed. We can tell because like she again is pretty jacked, and so you're like, okay, you're constantly working out and like you are burning off all these calories easily. But yeah, but I just think like the number one thing with professional eating that I always think is like, man, their shits must be crazy.
On that note, that's an interesting statement. On that note, I was immediately going to turn and be like, so Sammy, what about The Dark Knight?
Oh yeah, no, right. I've been over here. I've got my index cards ready. I have them on hand.
We wanted to give you some time to prep on it.
Weird shit.
Speaking of weird shit,
yeah.
So,
well, I will say, I don't think it's necessarily weird. I'm just very curious about this.
His tone got so quick.
So my answer is extremely pedantic.
Okay.
So, as we all know, DC stands for Detective Comics. Who was the original detective? Batman. Batman was the original ultimate detective. He was the American version of Sherlock Holmes back at his original inception in the early 30s. Thank you. I was going to say 40s, and I was like, it was before that. So Batman is an embodiment of logic and order and lawfulness. He operates outside the police, but he existed originally as like the hyper intellect, like the human manifestation of logic and reason.
If we were looking at it like in the paladin term, or like in D&D terms, he's a paladin of like lawful good status, like even in the original kind of era of it, kind of thing.
Exactly.
Right.
He has a very strict moral code, all of that stuff. The Joker, by contrast, and this again, I'm going all the way back to like the original comics and like a little bit of the like Adam West Batman.
Yeah.
So the Joker was the character foil. I don't know if that's antithesis.
Yeah.
He was the embodiment of pure chaos. That's why he was a clown. And the reason Batman originally had such difficulty stopping the Joker is because chaos can't be predicted. You can't logic your way out of chaos. So what I didn't like about The Dark Knight is that they didn't make the Joker chaotic. They made him a supervillain. They made him a genius. And the reason Batman couldn't stop a lot of the things he did was because the Joker kept out-thinking him and outsmarting him and out-planning him and out-maneuvering him. And I'm like, you don't do that to the world's greatest detective, right? Like, it was cool. It was cool to see that in the context of like...
But the fact that he is supposed to be the third smartest character in the DC universe.
Yeah.
Technically also... the second best detective in DC. Number one is Detective Chimp.
That's
but no, I fully understand where you're coming from because I do think in a weird way, which is also a funny thing about it with the Batman being out with like Robert Pattinson now, is the Joker they played did have, it was like a hybrid of Joker and Riddler.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of, because I can definitely see it where it's like you do have that, and it's the problem where like it depends on where your love of the comics goes from.
Yes.
Because again, like you're saying, like looking at the old stuff, whereas there's newer ones where the whole thing is, for some of the timelines, Joker is the way he is because of being hyper sane. Is the whole like concept of it, which does make him like a genius and stuff like that. But it's just like this weird like thing, and he becomes reliant on Batman, and that's kind of the thing with that. Yeah. But when you're looking at it like for you, which I'm assuming you like the detective side of Batman, you like the world's greatest detective part.
Yeah.
And so going into it, like I would say something like the Robert Pattinson one would fit more towards the mold of what you would enjoy, because he actually was a detective in that. And that's the one thing I'll say with like Batman Begins, I think started it well, but it still was like they focused a lot on the training of like with Raish and all of that. From what I remember, I also haven't seen it in a while. Yeah. But like they did a lot of that, and then they had like some detective work in there. Yeah. Dark Knight, it was just, I have gadgets. I have a sonar that can tell where everything is, which like fair. He is the tech guy. Yeah. But I feel like the more you went through the movies, like again, one of the reasons I don't like The Dark Knight Rises is I felt there was like, yes, it was kind of chaotic, and it was supposed to be like The Dark Knight, or what is it, Nightfall, and it was supposed to be kind of this like no man's land like adaptation, but there was like, in my opinion, almost no detective work. Yeah. Because even the reveal, Batman didn't figure it out. Talia al Ghul just went, hey, I'm the bad guy. It's like, that's a thing where it's like, it would have been more interesting, like, because then afterwards he then realizes, he's like, oh, it was Talia the one who got out of the thing. She's Raish's daughter, like that whole thing. But it's like, it would have been cool to see him figure that out throughout it, but they also shoved a lot into that movie, which I think it was a little, in a way, kind of bloated with the amount, because about they were doing Bane, they were doing Talia, they had a Robin allegory, they had Batman being broken, they had the GCPD versus all the criminals, they had Scarecrow randomly as a judge, they were originally planning on doing Heath Ledger popping up again, sadly he couldn't, and like it was just so much stuff in one movie, and I think like I can understand for Dark Knight because it kind of was like that middle ground. Yeah. And so I can see where you're coming from with that.
It felt more like I was watching The Punisher than Batman, because I was like, this is, an idiot rich boy who's super beefy, has a lot of money, and has a lot of cool tech. Like, he's swinging. I'm like, I could be watching The Punisher right now. I could be watching James Bond right now. I could be watching literally anything that doesn't call itself Batman, and I would be loving this movie. The only reason I don't love this movie is because it's calling itself Batman, and you're putting the Joker in, like, a Moriarty role, as opposed to like a Sherlock Holmes Moriarty genius showdown, as opposed to like embodiment of law versus embodiment of chaos.
I think the sucky thing about that is that technically you could have done that with Bane.
Yeah.
Because Bane is at times Batman's Moriarty, because he is a super genius as well as being physically imposing because of the venom.
Yeah.
And so it's like, that's the thing. That's why he did break the bat. That's why in the comics he figures out Bruce Wayne and Batman are the same person on his own. But they were like, but Joker.
Right? And I think it's just because the Joker is, or was at the time, a much more recognizable Batman villain. So they kind of just like took that recognizable character. And of course there's all of the Alan Moore stuff with like the Killing Joke and all of like those things that they layered onto it, which is like a very cool interpretation. I've had my beefs with Alan Moore in the past, not personally, but he's my nemesis.
That's good to know. I do know some people who have actual beefs with actual comic book people, so I needed to know if it was a personal or not. That's good to know.
It's a joke.
I would love it if in the UK somewhere Alan Moore was like, Sammy.
So my beef with Alan Moore is that when I was a teenager, I didn't super like The Watchmen, and I wasn't super into it. And then for my birthday, my brother got me a comic book of The Watchmen, and he was like, "Now you have to like this." So I've just decided
so
to
it's not,
dislike.
Well, it's not just Alan Moore then. Yeah. It's that men forcing their opinions on you is what you don't like.
Yeah, and
that's really great. Actually, I was saying.
I've attached that to you, Alan. I'm sorry.
That's how I feel about coffee. My brother growing up, he literally was like, he's like, if you drink ice caps, you're gonna like it, and he kept buying me ice caps. I'm like, I don't fucking like coffee, and now I really hate coffee because fuck you, Matthew. Love my brother.
Fortnite.
Right.
So don't force people into liking things, because then they'll end up fucking hating it.
Right. Reverse psychology. Yeah. But I will say, like, incredible acting by Heath Ledger, incredible effects. Like the story was stunning, and it was heart-wrenching and all of that stuff. I was like, but the whole time I was like, this isn't Batman, this isn't the Joker. These are two characters wearing those names like a mask, and I love what's happening here, but it's not
interesting.
Which again extremely pedantic, and like, again, so many people, you could make so many arguments, but that's me, and I'm sticking to it.
Good for you.
Like, thematics.
Yeah, and like before, what we had said before, like I when it comes to a movie that like personally for you is a movie that you cannot get into and cannot enjoy, like for me it is like Beauty and the Beast, a remake. It is because like there's so many things that I have an issue with that, and while some of them are pedantic, it does also tie into a justification as to why you, a storyteller, have brought these points up and what irks you as a storyteller. Like it like I do think it's important to note that like, because you are a very smart person and you are very good at what you do, because I've seen you DM games and I play with you at this table, so I've seen you be very smart and all that kind of stuff. So it's like it's not like a moment where I'm just like, why has Sammy got a dumb take like this? It's straight up like, and
like, I'm actually genuinely interested to find out why Sam has this take.
Because I will be honest, I have never heard a good take onto why The Dark Knight has not been a good movie for somebody. I've also not heard a lot of good takes when it comes to why The Dark Knight is a good movie. There's a book that I got from a film critic who I've ceased to watch that literally just talked about, I can't talk about why this movie is great because it's so close to my heart, so I'm just going to talk about the first time I saw it. I'm like, what? Like, what are you talking about? Like, that's not why I'm interested in your book, dude. I'm interested because I want to know. I respect your opinion. Fun fact, white guy. But it was like, I respect your opinion, and I want to know why you have this take, because I'm slowly starting to uncover my own interests. And I when you're a young, impressionable person and you, like, glom onto internet stuff, as we have with like YouTube and stuff, you actually start to be like, what do these people say? And you construct your own opinion. I wrote an essay about it when I was in university. It was okay. I don't know how good it was. My one teacher, whatever. he gave me a good mark on it, but then my next teacher gave me a bad mark on my essay. So it's like I don't know what the grading average was.
Did you use the same essay for
No.
different homeworks? Okay.
No, one of them was about Edgar Allan Poe. But
Rude.
oh, I got a 50% on it. It was bad. But it's okay. I got better. Hey, you get better, you improve with that.
You know what's I don't mean to interrupt because you're on a roll, but you know what's a fun thing to think about when you think about Edgar Allan Poe?
What's up?
The fact that he was born in the Bronx, so he would have had a Brooklyn accent and kind of sounded like Matt Damon.
Also, I love how
yeah.
I also love the fact that as
Fuck you.
definitely the type of guy who was like the goth poetry, all these like really like goth emo kids like grew up reading him and stuff, and there's an entire football team named because of him. Because the Baltimore Ravens are named that because he lived
Once upon a midnight dreary, while I
pond
ponder weak and weary
over many
quaint and curious volume of forgotten lore. Hell yeah. Nevermore, the Catalyst Theater show would have been so much better. And I love that play. Do not get me wrong, it's like my second favorite theater play. It would have been my favorite if they now had a Brooklyn accent.
While I nodded, merely napping, suddenly it came a tap in. Someone rapping at my chamber door.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, here's my thing. I don't know how to engage on this because I'm like, I genuinely like what you had said here. Yeah. And I want to add to the conversation. But any point in which I add to the conversation is also going to be like, but here's my opinion and it's my channel, so therefore I qualify. And I very much just like what you had shared. Again, it's like I don't feel a need to actually say anything on that. I think the one thing I will add is I actually recently rewatched one of my favorite movies growing up, which was the 1966 Batman movie.
Nice.
I have that movie. I love that. I love the show, but I don't love the show as much as I love the movie because the movie for me was like the perfect encapsulation of what was the campiness of the show. And while I don't think that movie is perfect, it's as perfect as it could be, I think, for that kind of movie and what they were doing with it. Like, it's fun and it is kind of detective-y. Like, the idea that they have the water dehydration, the end story is like we have to separate these dusts that got spared, so it's like Batman's the only person that can do this. Yeah. It's funny how you're like, wait a second, they actually have to do this. And Robin has the moral question of like the eugenics question where he's just like, the way the world is and all, could we maybe change these factors? And Batman's like morally like, no, Robin, no, we shouldn't do that. We must be able to let the world stand. We've seen what happens in this very Batcave, what happens when you tamper with this kind of stuff.
I do gotta love how that movie, he's like, we can't play God Robin, and then in the comics he literally becomes the god of knowledge at one point, and he's like,
it's funny.
Shit!
Well, it's funny because it's like at points I think like that kind of stuff is also again where it's like, I don't love comic books. Batman comics are the only comics I've really read except for The Walking Dead. The Walking Dead is my favorite comic book. But I also I also read Batman comics, and one of my favorite comics is Death in the Family. And then also the Arkham Asylum, the British version, story of that. It was so good. But the basic thing of it is like, you're right. It's like there's that detective thing. You think of the structure, and even in that the movie, like Riddler is even kind of crazy, and Joker seems a little more sane with the Cesar Romero one, but he's just like a like I love it. I think that there's a lot to it that there's a lot of weight to the idea of like having a detective and I rewatched a lot of the Batman films, and not every one of the other Batman films really highlighted that detective element. Many of them just kind of focus again on the darkness of the turmoil of that person. It's another reason why I don't actually love Batman Returns. It's like it is a lot about the tragedy, but again, I don't exclusively put that to him. I think there's part of me that also didn't appreciate the Batman animated series as much as like it did. I finished it and I was like, I never I watched it and I liked it, but then there was like a lot of stuff that I didn't even realize about like the nuances of like when it came out and like who Kevin Conroy was as a person. Like I discovered that he was gay and I was like, what? And then there was a great video essay I watched where they talk about that. I was like, that's actually really creative. And Mark Hamill created the Joker, and to this day the best Joker performance is not Mark Hamill in the animated, it's Mark Hamill in the video games. That's the best Joker that I've ever seen,
which I think is also why there's such a noticeable for someone who's a good voice actor when Troy Baker took it over and I think it was Origins. It was so noticeable because it's not that he did a bad job, it's just that Mark Hamill did such an incredible job that it was like it's to me it's like when you look at something like, going back to Disney remakes, Aladdin, there is no way in hell that anyone could have done the level of Robin Williams.
Oh, no.
But the fact that they got Will Smith, who has good acting chops in certain movies, but it's like, no matter how good he did, he's not going to live up to that.
The role was literally made for Robin Williams.
Yeah.
There's a wonderful Lindsay Ellis video where it talks about it was made because these people are like, let's send an animation of the genie doing Robin Williams stand up, and it was like, and that's what got him to sign on to the role.
Exactly.
Smart play animators, play to the person you want, not just anybody. But that's a big point. I and again, when I do say that, I also do say that Heath Ledger's Joker performance is my favorite performance ever. I was scared of that man. Like, when I was a kid and I saw that movie, it was not the man whose face was burnt off that scared me. It was that man behind the makeup. And that flash, I've never I think stopped a scene more in my life than the moment when he turns in the one in the firing squad. There was a part of me that like saw that. I was like, "Oh my God, who is this?" And
that's how I felt actually back then, but a little bit different. Oh my God, who is this?
Is this?
And that's when I realized a lot of things about myself that day. I think that really carved out a lot of things. Yeah.
Carved out a lot of things? Yeah, there you go.
For me, it was the interrogation room with the pencil and the...
Yeah, sure.
Oh, that's not even an interrogation room. It's straight up a meeting. He's in a meeting with mobsters.
Oh, yeah.
It's just, he's walking in a room full of
The
mobsters.
thing is, you mixed it with later
when Batman slams his head on the table.
And he goes, it's
Interesting.
not good to hit the head first. Like
Interesting.
that kind of a thing.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I never even realized that.
Yeah.
He does the same thing.
Yeah.
It's like, don't start with the head. It gets
Yeah,
all fuzzy.
it gets
You
all
can't
fuzzy,
feel it.
yeah.
I don't fucking agree with you, dude. You did the same thing. Like that. Oh my God.
Yeah. Also...
I love this movie.
Right? And like, just going back to the killing joke, I think it's the killing joke, that like, you're not so different, you and I, Batman whole
it's
thing.
like
I'm like,
one bad day coming.
you're literally his antithesis.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? You couldn't be...
But here's
But
the one thing I will say.
Yeah, literally the like two sides of the same coin.
Yeah.
They are each other's opposites, and it's the whole thing of like, in the comics again, the whole thing of like how Joker knows for a fact that he could not exist without Batman.
Right.
Yes.
And that's like a thing, and it's kind of the weird like how people will put the whole like Joker's in love with Batman kind of like thing on top of it, because it feels that way a lot of the time. He is obsessed with Batman. He goes after in Death of the Family, the other one, he goes after all the members of the Bat family because he thinks that they've made Batman soft. And he's like, you're not the same that you were. And that's the Batman that this world needs. And it's like the Joker is thinking what the world needs is fucked up, but it's not what the world needs, it's what he needs. And he believes Batman thinks the same, but to be honest, Batman doesn't. Batman, like, if the Joker went away, Batman's life would be easier. But Joker is so like insanely like literally obsessed with this fact of like you've done this. I mean, it's the reason like, you know, he manipulates Harley Quinn because but there can never be any actual anything between them because it's Batman's the only person that he actually in his own twisted way cares about.
Yeah. He's the only like other human that the Joker the only other human life that that Joker places any type of value on besides his own.
And even at times not even his own.
There is a thing with it that I do look at where I think one of the things I love about that movie especially is very much like seeing how like Batman is very like, what's it called? Learning about the concept of like there are people who are more dangerous than just the standard kind of like low level villains that we had before. Like and I will say I rewatched Batman Begins like quite a while ago, and it is actually a really good movie. I think a lot of it is actually really well structured, and while it is, yes, it's like there's not that whole thing of like you know, gadgetry as much. There is quite a bit that is like the construction of it and finding it, and you're like, okay. And the world that was constructed in that made a lot of sense for how it was done. I don't think it's perfect by any means, but I do think that there are some things that are good in that. The Dark Knight, I think, aside from having like, I think that, what was it? something I think a lot of people forget in that movie, and I this is actually, I'm really glad you brought this up, Sunny, because there's something that has really bothered me in a lot of analysis with this movie.
Yes.
It very much bothers me when people look at the Joker and they say that, oh, he doesn't actually have a plan in that film. I disagree, and I agree with you 100% on your analysis of the Joker. He definitely does. Like, it's one of the things where when he says that whole, like, I'm like a dog chasing cars. I wouldn't know what to do if I caught it. I just do things. I don't agree, and but it's also what I love about the movie is, like, it's not about the idea that Joker is this person who is so, like, he is crazy, and the pursuit of what he's doing is absolutely wild. A lot of the things that he's doing is like, how could he do this? Yeah. And I think it actually plays into the idea that this person is able to truly, and I think truly does mark an antithesis of Batman in this one way, when saying, like, he targets everybody that Batman has, like, made these relationships with. He's really pushing Batman to have to, like, accept, like it's this idea that it's like, you have to make the choice. You got to make the choice, especially with, like, Rachel and Harvey, and he knew who he would go to. Yep. He knew who he would go to when he went to that party. He knew that he knew that Harvey was part of his whole plan. Yeah. But at the end, and I do think this is actually kind of fun, that at the end of the movie, Batman is or not Batman, but Joker gets surprised by the people of Gotham. There's such a very brilliant thing where it's like, and it's like that moment where I think if I was going to say anything, it's kind of like, it's a little surprising to me that Batman was so certain of it. Like saying, what were you trying to prove? Like that kind of thing. I kind of think it would have been better if Batman was surprised, or not Batman, Bruce Wayne, if he was surprised, because I think that one of the things that I love about that movie is how much of an affirmation it is about the idea that you are not like Batman is always viewed, I think, as like this idea of a true noble hero. Yeah. The idea of that lawful good kind of paladin stuff. But the thing, and maybe I'm tying into my own Baldur's Gate recent experience with playing Paladin, I've always found that the Paladins are the most interesting when their spirits and oaths are challenged. And so when Batman is literally at the very beginning of the film is like, after the brilliant opening scene, he says, do we go after one man or the entire mob? And doesn't even wait for a response. He just says he can wait. And he's making the decisions for the police. Like, it's the idea that he's working in league with the police. He is making these big affirmative choices, and a low-level person with Gordon is listening to him. So he's, like, so influential and so intimidating that he's literally driving the thing. So it is his responsibility to own up that I was wrong, and I've failed in this. Yeah. It doesn't negate, I will definitely say, and I don't want to negate the idea of what you said about, like, the lack of the intrigue of the actual investigation stuff. There is definitely, I think there are cool sequences involving it, like the sonar stuff, but, like, even then I will also say it's kind of the idea that we're going for this really deep thematic story element in doing this, but we're also kind of glossing over some of the things that I think we really do love about Batman, and stuff that the 1960s movie did so much better and was still fun to watch.
So much better. I love how you referenced earlier, like, that scene between, like, Robin and Batman, where Robin's like, well, hey, maybe we, like, and Batman is like, no, we must do this. And he had that, like, goofy, like, Adam West sort of, like, stoicism.
Adam West is straight up, and that's a horny movie, but awakened a lot in me, and I gotta say, that awakened a lot in me, like, god damn. But
Eartha Kitt.
In the TV show. Yeah. This is Lee Merriweather. And
it's Lee Merriweather in the movie. Right.
Let me just say.
I forgot.
Yeah. The one thing about the 60s Batman is that there were 3 different Catwomen.
This is now a white guy podcast.
Same person.
Yeah. This is a white guy podcast now.
Even though one of them's a black woman, they're all the same person. But no, with the thing, and I think one of the reasons that, like, those Batman films are still like the Dark Knight and stuff are still, like, seen as good, even when you have, like, things against them, is because they were able to keep, as you guys were saying, like, the fact that Batman is one of the most morally good characters of the DC universe, to the point where Superman says he's the best of us. Like, and the fact that Superman, I mean, to be quite honest, not a fan of Frank Miller. I think a lot of his stuff is awful. But the fact that even in he recognized that, like, at the end when Batman dies of his heart attack and Superman hears his heartbeat again, he says nothing and just allows Batman to continue on, because he's like, I've done my job and Batman's gone. I did it. I don't have to do anything else. He can now do the actual good work. And that's like the whole thing of like, you have this, again, it's the joke people make about how like Batman is a man in a league of gods, but he's one of the leaders of the Justice League, the most human person. And it being this whole thing of like the reason that Bruce and Clark are so close, and why, in my opinion, the best Batman Superman is when they are friends.
Yes.
Is because Clark knows that he's the best person. He's the most like heroic, whereas Bruce knows that Clark is the most human. Yes. Even though it's this whole thing of like, you're an unpowered hero, but you're the one who's going to save everyone. And he's like, you're a superhuman alien, but you're the one who is the most human of us all. Yeah. And it's like that friendship is one of the reasons why I like that between them. Yeah. Even as someone who for years grew up not liking Superman. Yep. And then like it clicked for me when my partner actually got me to watch Smallville. Oh, okay. Was the thing that started to switch it, and then I started like looking more into different things with Superman. I was like, yeah, he is a good character. It's just people get lazy writing him. Yeah. And a lot of fans get lazy in their reasons. Well, he's invincible. It's like, well, he's not. No. Guess what? Magic, one of his biggest weaknesses. You know how many magical characters are in the DC universe?
So many. What's the best way to attack a character like Dungeons and Dragons, for example, the armor and invulnerability? What's the best way to attack them? You target saving throw stuff. Yeah. Like charisma saving throws, wisdom, you manipulate their intelligence, you do that. Yes.
One of my favorite like story pieces, thematic things I've ever seen ever, I think it's from the animated Justice League. It's the episode where Superman says that he lives in a world of paper, and so his like greatest fear is actually like hurting people around him because he is so much stronger, and like it's a constant stress.
I will say the animated Justice League, fucking incredible, because that's also the same one where one of my favorite things is when I don't remember what happens at first, but Batman gets injured and he's literally in the hospital bed with a neck brace, and Clark comes in and says something about like, oh, like I should take that, and he gets pissed. He's like, no, like this is not how we do things. Basically like talking to Superman like, just because you're invulnerable doesn't mean that you're invincible. Yeah. And like basically goes on this whole thing about it, and it's like this like human man who at that point, you know, also one of the best things when they're all hiding, and they're like we have to hide from them, we have to take off our costumes, and Flash is like, but then we'll know each other's identities, and Bruce just looks and goes, Barry Allen, John Stewart, Clark Kent, Diana Prince, and like points at each one of them and calls out their secret identities. And I remember Wally West, and I remember Flash going, okay, like pulling off his mask, being like, well, I guess that's out in the open now, because they're in the middle of an apocalypse, and Batman's like, I don't have time for this anymore.
It's like it's the idea of like a D&D story. It's like, wait, we can't all know each other's secret origins. It's like dad dead, mom dead, son dead. Everybody's got a thing. Yeah. Let's get over it. We got a dragon to stop.
Darkseid is taking over the world.
Exactly. This is actually my favorite movie from like of a Batman or Superman thing. It also has probably my favorite Joker laugh. It's there's a great thing where it's like, again, you see that how Superman and Batman, like this is the ultimate Batman versus Superman movie. It was great, and I brought it as a prop, but like truly it like and again I agree 100% where it's like that kind of shit is so cool. And like again, while it's like you know what, Sammy, and I will say this, while maybe I don't have the same feeling that you have with The Dark Knight, I do think that we can rise above it, and we can equally agree that no one ever should have made Batman and Robin.
No.
You should never have a bad credit card.
That movie, and I gotta just be honest after rewatching it, that movie, it's so so boring and bad. It's not even that it's like funny. I can enjoy it bad. It's so boring.
No, because the best part of that movie is Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
As Mr. Freeze making jokes, but he's not in it enough for it to be funny. It's literally him popping and be like, "Nice to meet you," and you're like, "That's good," and then nothing else happens, and you're like, "All right."
Yeah.
I no longer laugh during movies now. From now on, I only go, "That's good."
Yeah.
Just like no more laughter for me.
I want you to do that the next movie you watch with your boyfriend. You'll be there and be like, "That's good."
I do want to start up our session very soon here. I wanted to say this was a great conversation. I love you guys all very much. This was great.
Hell yeah.
Love you. Monica, I was going to ask you, do you have a movie that you don't like?
Do you have opinions?
Do I have an opinion?
I know you have opinions, but do you have a movie you don't like?
I don't really watch a whole lot of movies, so...
That's fair.
You already knew this about
And
me.
then with that, we're going to end this
Though
for
I
right
do
now.
have a favorite movie.
Oh, what's your favorite movie?
I have two. The Croods and Grease.
Nice.
Really?
Yeah, I love Grease. I know the entire soundtrack.
That's a conversation for another time.
I love how his really was you being like, oh, he doesn't believe that I like that Grease is one of my favorite, not the Croods.
Yeah.
Like, not the animated caveman movie. He's like, no, I understand the Croods, but Grease?
Dang.
I went to musical theater school. Of course I have an opinion about Grease. Of course I do.
No, Croods
You
is a
think I don't have an
masterpiece,
opinion about Grease?
But I do have an opinion. Actually, I have an opinion on Croods too. Kind of sucked a little bit, not gonna lie. Everyone's like, no, it's like funny, and I'm like, it kind of just feels like it's catered to 8-year-old alpha generation.
Kind of like the idea how The Dark Knight has been co-opted by a bunch of like white guys who are just like so edgy, like, I want to play a game. If I have to see another person do a bad Heath Ledger impression, I worked on that personally. God damn it. Anyway, yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. I was just like, I watched the second one, and it's like, it can be funny sometimes, but it's not like my
The only thing I remember
favorite.
from the Croods is Belt.
Belt, I love Belt.
Yeah.
With that, everybody, I guess this might actually be recorded and put up. I don't know if you guys want that.
I mean,
You'll be
It's
like,
just
you'll
me
be like
just
bonus
doodle-
content.
yes.
Everyone's
behind a
having
Patreon.
conversations,
Yeah.
and I'm just doodling.
I love it. I
You
love
don't
it.
watch movies very often.
No, you
I
don't.
I do enjoy movies. Don't get me wrong. It's just I kind of just don't. Like I watch.
Can I say
TV
I
a lot.
really
I also watch anime more than I watch.
Oh,
I was gonna
hell yeah.
say, hey, I don't watch a lot of anime. Next time we'll talk about anime and I'll shut the fuck up the entire time.
We'll just talk about Ace.
We talk about Ace the entire time. I will bring my
Yeah.
little sculpture and I'll bring my hat. It'll be good.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Fantastic. All right, we're gonna get the session started very soon. Here, we'll see you guys very shortly. I hope you guys like this. This is great.
It's like
I have to just say I love that so much because like I was locked in, and I'm like, I don't want this to end.
Yeah.
We could start, but this is actually just something I've genuinely had an opinion about and want to talk about for a long time. And I'm glad we could actually talk about it in a meaningful way.
Yeah.
Because it's better than just having one person share their opinion.
Oh, now everybody's going to know that I dig the Joker, which I'm fine with that.